Good deal. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Basalt Town Council meeting for Tuesday, June 27th, 2023. Looks like we got a good attendance tonight. Pam, if you would, we'll begin our meeting with a call to order and roll call. So Pam, call the roll.
Absolutely. Let us begin with Dieter Schindler,
Present.
Ryan Slack,
Here.
Angela Anderson.
Here.
Thanks, Angela. Elise Hoddle,
Present.
Bill Kane,
Here.
David Knight,
Here.
and Glenn Drummond.
Here.
The A-team is present, sir.
All right. So next order of business is the consent agenda. We have two items. One is the minutes from June 13th, 2023, and the second item is special event activity permit, the Aspen Valley Marathon. Looks like a very cool event. If there are no questions and if we don't choose to pull any of these items off, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mayor, I move that the town council approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, good deal. So the next item is call to public for public comment, and let me just send out a little message to those that may be watching from home or calling in or listening in. So access to the Basalt Town Council meetings can be found at www.basalt.net under Agendas and the Minutes tab. Click on the June 27th, 23 meeting packet to open. On the meeting access instructions page, click on the link to join the webinar. Public comments are timed and limited to 3 minutes. So we'll be taking comments for the next little while here from people in the audience, and then, but if you want to call in, please do so, and Pam will put you in a waiting room, and then we'll allow you to address council virtually. So with that, then, I would open the floor for public comment. I would just like to advise everyone, if you're here to comment on the Midland street improvements, this would probably be your time to make those comments, because even though we have a presentation later on in the evening, it is not a public hearing. It's a presentation from our staff on the monthly Midland Avenue construction update. So with that, I would invite anyone in the audience that would like to address town council to come on up and give us your name, address, serial number, and you're limited to 3 minutes. Ted, I'm sure you got this down to a science. So.
I practiced before.
Okay.
I want to give these to Pam. I sent copies of these electronically to everybody. There's, I think, 9 copies there.
Okay. Do you want me to pass them out?
Yes, please. So Ryan should be able to get one, and Michelle can probably get one. My name is Ted Guy. I live at 167 Swinging Bridge Lane. I don't know if everybody knows that I'm an architect and a structural engineer and have practiced in this valley for nearly 50 years. With the recent bid opening on June 2nd, the town appears to have run into a brick wall with cost overruns. The RFP said that the budget's $7.5 million. Your low bid from Gould was approximately $11 million, which is significantly above. But Stutzman Gerbaugh's price was approximately 13. I have those secondhand, so I'm trusting that I was told the right numbers. The designs team today is going to basically suggest that you authorize doing the water line only and value engineer the remaining phase 2 costs. So basically, you're now trying to reduce the $13 million bid down to $7.5 million, while locking in $1.8 million for this summer's construction of the water line. With 50 years of experience in construction, it's easy to get a 10% savings. It's pretty difficult to get 15%. It's impossible to get 42% savings in value engineering without significant redesign. That's where you guys are. I believe the town should create a citizens advisory committee to work with the design team to work on value engineering and design scope modifications to bring the streetscape project back on budget. And I certainly would be willing, at no charge, to be a member of that advisory group. I remember that, Basalt's a small town, and we, for a while, had our town. And that town didn't throw neighbors and businesses under the bus. And that's what I feel like you guys have been doing. I did get a copy of the drawings, the bid documents. I was amazed that the north traffic lane will have 21 crossings from the water line to the buildings on the north side, yet there's only 5 from the south side to the other businesses, which means that in the summer of putting 21 water connections, you're going to close all of Midland Avenue 21 times. If you do move the water line to the north side where all the customers are, you'd only have to do it 5 times. I think you should stop. I think you should use this winter to re-engineer, to get this thing back on budget, and start in April of 2024 with a project that you can afford. We, the citizens, can afford. My memorandum lists a page and a half of things that I think you can do to reduce the cost, but without things like moving water lines and stuff like that, I don't think you can accomplish it. Thank you.
Thanks, Ted. Anyone else like to address council? Going once, going twice.
Wyckoff. I live at 553 East Sopers Drive. So I have a question. Is the streetscape with the widening of the sidewalks and the median, the partial median, part of this summer's project, or is that on hold?
Well, Julie, the only thing we're probably going to be able to accomplish this summer is the replacement of the water line. And so we're going to be, as Ted was correct, we'll probably be using the winter months to get ready for next year. So that's the items you're talking about are specifically on hold for right now.
Okay, and so my question is, who decided about this? Who designed it? Where did you get a lot of complaints about narrow sidewalks and decide to move forward with this project, or how did this get generated?
Well, this is a time for you to make comments to the council about what you like, what you don't like,
Okay,
what you would
I'd like
like
it
to
to
see.
just say
But
this-
I would suggest you come in and talk to Michelle or the staff, and they're right next door. They're very nice people. All the drawings are there. You can come in and have a cup of coffee and kind of get up to speed on what's going on.
Okay, now I'll give you my opinion. Leave it alone. It's got charm, it's got access. It's just the way it is. And to start making some gentrification improvement takes away the charm. Everyone is doing that. Leave something the way it is to be appreciated for the community that's different. Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathleen?
Hello. I'm Kathleen Cole. I'm a 24-year resident of our lovely, historic, charming town. I live at 589 East Sopers Drive. I was a business owner here for 13 years as well. I'm not sure where to start. I know this project is going forward. I did read Ted's memorandum, and so if in fact we are seriously going to do some value engineering, some of the things that I find do not highlight the assets of our historic downtown, which is in the first paragraph of your new ordinance. You've got pavers in that big area down in front of, well, right here. And it widens, and theoretically it's supposed to encourage pedestrian traffic and maybe slow traffic down. those pavers are probably 3 times as expensive as any other thing, including concrete. I mean, I just think that these are the things that, we've got to get it out of the stratosphere of $15 million, which is probably what it's going to end up as. You've got 24-inch on-center saw cuts, colored concrete. Again, it's just excessive, and it's pie in the sky, and it's an urban landscape that really doesn't enhance our economic vitality. I keep seeing economic vitality is what we're emphasizing here. I'm not seeing that this project, other than spending an obscene amount of money, is helping with the underlying core cultural values of this town. It's not supporting our fragile business community, which serves our cultural life in this historic town. We're rapidly and irrevocably losing our social capital, which is at the center of this community. So it's just like, please, try to figure something out. I mean, I know that we're going to do the water line, but, the central planters and what a problem that's going to be for snow plowing and the curve. I mean, it's just, I don't know, I just think it's not good planning. So thank you for your consideration, and I hope we continue to have a really great little town going forward.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience like to address town council tonight? Public hearing process. Chris, are you coming up here?
Yeah, slowly.
Way to go. What happened?
I have no idea what happened. And I'm really glad I didn't have to wait till 7:30 because I need some muscle relaxers and some pain medication when I get home. I'm Chris Matera. I'm with the Basalt Chamber of Commerce. I'm the executive director. And I just wanted to, reinforce the role that the chamber is going to play as this project unfolds. We've been working with our members since, probably February of last year to get some of that feedback on the initial concepts. Hosted a business after hours last May that included the project team. So I just want to reinforce that the chamber is supporting our local businesses as well as visitor outreach. So as the town continues with its project communication, we're going to amplify that message and also have more specific visitor and business information. So working with the local businesses on where their employees can park, alternate forms of transit. We've been working with the town on the concert series to get that information out. So just want to let you know that the chamber's a partner as we move forward, being nimble, recognizing that the project has changed a bit over the last year and a half that it's been under progress, but that we are committed to helping our local businesses and ensuring a positive visitor experience and acting as a solution finder as issues come up, because we can't anticipate everything that's going to happen during a construction project. So that was really it, and really glad I got to not wait till 7:30. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Chris. I'll just conclude by saying we're going to have a project update later on in the evening. And, I think we're all pretty well aware and kind of surprised by costing on everything these days. And this project's no exception, so we're going to be working hard to figure out what we can afford to do and what we can't afford to do. We've heard lots in the way of criticism and comments, and they will certainly be taken into consideration as we go forward. What's up?
Walked in.
We have one later.
Okay, Jim?
I moved to Basalt.
Name, address, serial number, date of birth.
Jim Benson, 751 Promontory Lane. You want my age too?
I don't think so.
Anyway, I moved to Basalt 5 years ago because I didn't want to move to Aspen because I call Aspen Faux Town now. And I lived in Snowmass Village for 47 years, and I always called Snowmass Village a resort town. So we decided to move to Basalt because Basalt was a real town. And we love the restaurants, we love the businesses. It's got, real businesses, not fake businesses like Aspen has. But I'm a little concerned about getting rid of the parallel parking in downtown Basalt because I think it'll ruin the feel of downtown Basalt. And, the diagonal parking. And to eliminate that many parking spots in front of all the businesses that we all love to go to, I think is a real mistake. Even in the off-season, it's hard to find a parking spot downtown Basalt. So to eliminate, we need more parking, not less parking. So for something this important for Basalt's future, I think this should actually come to a vote of the citizens of Basalt and let them tell City Council what they want and what they don't want, instead of City Council making up their mind to do something that a lot of citizens don't want to have done. And everybody thinks that downtown needs to be spruced up some, but not changed radically. So I would like to have City Council really take a long look at what they're trying to do here and maybe, let the citizens of Basalt vote on it to see what they really want and maybe give them 2 different plans. Spruced up with the parking the way it is now and what you guys want to do, and see what the actual citizens want. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, well, with that, that concludes our call to the public, and so we will turn to mayor and council reports and comments. So, anybody got committee work? Go ahead.
I would just like to extend a thank you to staff. Farmers Market has been amazing. It's really just great to see summer back in Basalt. It's cool to see the park activated. I think the band shell's coming together really nicely. It's fun to see everything progressing. And so kudos to the team. I know it takes a lot to get that put on and organized. So awesome job.
Yeah, have to second that. The energy was really great out there on Sunday. And do we have like 50% more tents than we've had in previous years?
We have more vendors than before. And we'll let Sarah talk to that when she comes up for her presentation. But we have a lot of interest and some more vendors this year for sure.
Great. People like the park, or they?
More vendors. There's more vendors this year at the Basalt
Yeah.
Farmers Market. You haven't checked it out on Sunday. 10 to 2.
Any other comments from reports? Okay. Manager's report? Ryan, you want
Yeah, just a couple things for you. So I actually added into the packet, and we'll be doing a second reading this evening on the supplemental appropriation, but looking at rolling out the Midland Money Program and running that July 1st through September 30th. And that effort there is just one of the things that we're doing to try to support the businesses during construction of the Midland Avenue Streetscape project. These are similar to the Basalt Bucks that we did during the beginning of COVID. They're $20 vouchers that would allow people to go and patronize businesses and get a $20 discount on their food, or a pair of shoes, or what have you, in the Midland area. So we are looking at rolling that out in the next few days. We do have a website at Midland Money, our town website. We have a page called Midland Money, and that'll have the list of participants. So we're hoping to get a lot of the businesses to participate in that, and we'll be passing those out at the Wednesday concerts, at the farmers markets, and some other venues as well. So We're excited to get that going here soon. And then as a second effort, we are also starting the Basalt Summer Concert Series. So last week we had the first concert down in Triangle Park, which I would say got off to a huge success. The park was filled with people. I think that summer excitement is really starting. And this year we're doing it a little differently. We've hired a concert manager who has their fingers into the industry. So I think we have a really good lineup. And on July 12th, I think it is, will be our first concert in the park here. And so this week we have a second concert at the Triangle Park, and that's Los Molcajetes will be there. And I think that's going to be a great concert with a pretty broad appeal. And the other thing that we're doing that's pretty special this year is we've got sponsors for each of the concerts, as well as a nonprofit that will benefit from them. And so, I think that helps to get some more folks out and helps with volunteers. And so if the concerts continue like they did last week, I think we're going to have a really great season. And I did just want to recognize that our staff, so Michelle heading things up and putting her head to the concert series, gets lots of kudos for me for that hard work. Public Works was out there doing a lot of work helping us get set up, and of course another one of our employees, Alec, in the planning department, he's been the guy running around and kind of trying to organize things. So first concert, learned a lot, and I think it'll just get smoother as the summer goes through. So pretty exciting. And then I will not steal her thunder, but we are going to talk about a third effort for the Midland Project, and Sarah will be talking a little bit about the murals and that BPAC supported effort that we're looking to do this summer as well. So with that, that's all I have. Thanks.
Thanks. So we're going to be ready for the first one in the park, July 12th.
July 12th.
12th.
We're ready for a grand opening event.
We're going to make. When does the fabric go over the roof?
Shortly before the 12th. It's the last piece
Oh,
to go
okay.
on.
Like 3 hours before?
It starts getting
That's too
attached,
close.
and then it gets stretched and reattached, and it gets stretched and confirmed, and it's a multi-process.
Oh, great. Thanks. That's looking good out there. Okay, so that takes us to our next item, which is our presentations, the first of one of which is Basalt High School. It's an update on the learning specialists funded through the tobacco tax grant. So Ryan and Megan Hartman. Hi, Megan.
Hi, nice to meet you. So first off, thank you so much for the learning specialist funding. We saw some really great success last year. We split the funding into two kind of different ways in which we chose to support our students. And I guess I should actually, I realized, introduce myself. My name is Megan Hartman, and I'm the interim principal at Basalt High School for next school year. And I was the assistant principal for the past 2 years. So the first thing that we focused on was providing our students with an Algebra 1 support class that not all of our students took, but we tried to partner with the middle school in identifying which students could really use some additional support in terms of Algebra 1 and being successful there. Algebra 1 is frequently considered a gatekeeper in mathematics, and until you get past that, you kind of get stuck. And so it's really critical that we get that support for mathematics instruction in early. And we, for those classes, we had it co-taught between both a new teacher and then an experienced math teacher who has her master's degree in both CLDE and special education. So she was really skilled at supporting a variety of learners. And we saw pretty drastic increases in pass rates in Algebra 1 that you can see in your packets. I think you have them, correct, Ryan?
Yeah, they're
Okay.
in there, yep.
So we saw first semester an 18-ish% increase, and second semester a 27-ish% increase. Although I have a master's degree in mathematics, adding and subtracting are the hardest. So I think I'm right with 27, but I could be wrong. Anyways, we saw really, really great success with this Algebra 1 support class. And we allowed students, if they were passing Algebra 1 at semester, to move out. If they were failing Algebra 1 first semester and wanted the additional support, we didn't force it upon any student, but we gave them the choice of saying, hey, do you want some additional support? And we had some students really elect into it. And anecdotally, we had a couple of kids who we've really struggled with engagement and would show up to that class and really be present and engage, which, having been a math teacher, is saying a lot, because math tends to be one of the subjects that students shy away from. So that was really exciting. And another piece of work that we did with the learning specialist is that we provided co-teaching. And so we paired either experienced teachers with CLDE or special education backgrounds with new teachers or teachers with content areas where we have historically seen either emerging bilinguals or special education students struggle at times. And so we were able to really see an increase in that sense of belonging and feeling like those students are able to be successful. So we look at our panorama survey results in terms of that kind of how are students seeing themselves in school. And so we saw an increase of 17% from our emerging bilingual students, and how much do you see yourself as someone who appreciates school, and an 8% gap or increase in how well do your learning strategies help you learn more effectively. And so we really tried to have the co-teaching model be one where we're upskilling our teachers in meeting those needs of our diverse learning population. And so we were really excited about what we saw and how we were able to support our teachers and allow our teachers to support the needs of our students. We are looking at using that learning specialist funding differently for next year for two very different reasons. The first is through a relatively complex process where we really talk to teachers about some of the challenges and some of the strengths and how to best meet the needs of our teachers and our students. We are moving from a 7-period schedule to a 10-period schedule. And what that will mean is that we'll have alternating blocks where they have 5 blocks a day. And so our blocks currently are 95 minutes and they're going down to 75. Part of that is that we will have tutorial support for all of our freshmen and sophomore students. And Capstone will be a class, and it will be Capstone and College and Career and Discovery for all of our juniors and our seniors. And so we felt like we've seen our juniors and seniors not have enough access to College and Career Discovery classes, and this will be able to do Capstone as part of that class. And then with our incoming freshmen and our existing sophomores, we felt like Crew was not kind of targeted enough to provide them with kind of the academic skills and support and how do I learn how to high school? How do I be successful as a student? And so because we're making this very large shift, if we kept Algebra 1 the way it is, we're chunking down Algebra 1 by a significant portion. And so what we're going to do is we're going to double it up where every freshman has Algebra 1 every day. So it ends up taking up 2 of their blocks. So part of the learning specialists that we want to use is to fund that doubling up of Algebra 1 for students who are in Algebra 1. And then the other piece is that I don't know how much you have all paid attention to the school district's advanced learning plan that has come out this school year. But we ended up getting a 0.5 of an FTE for a dean of culture. And we, since the pandemic, have seen kind of some of those overall scores in terms of sense of belonging and engagement in school take a hit. And we want to work hard to make sure that we're really doing everything we can to engage our students, engage our teachers, get our kids in the building, especially those who are struggling with attendance. And so a 0.5 FTE for a dean of culture is a really hard position to fill because people don't want half-time jobs. And so we want to fill the other half of that dean of culture role with the learning specialist funding so that we can really work on making sure that our students are finding that success and thriving at Basalt High School. So those are kind of the adjustments we're making. We're still focusing on math. We're doing it in a slightly different way given the change of our schedule. And then we saw a lot of success with our co-teaching this year, and a lot of that was building those skills of those teachers. And we're continuing to work on those partnerships, but we want to focus on this Dean of Culture role, which we think is hopefully going to be really impactful in supporting our students and supporting our teachers. So, anyone have any questions?
When is the, when does this renew, or when does it come back for
This
refunding?
was the first year of it, so they have 2 more years.
Okay, great. So can you comment on how we're doing with test scores? I think, we read horror stories across country about the effects of COVID and math and verbal test scores for benchmark,
Yeah.
8th and 9th graders, 13th.
Our test scores from the spring were not released before the end of the school year. So I don't have them at this point in time. We were relatively on par with the school district last year, and I'm trying to do my best to remember data that I haven't looked at in a little bit. We were definitely, I want to say we had something like 45% of our students meeting benchmarks in math, and so that's problematic, which is part of why we wanted to focus on math. We had a higher percentage of our students meeting benchmarks in evidence-based reading and writing. I want to say that was closer to 60%, and so that is part of why we're focusing on math. We did see some pretty solid growth numbers in terms of our math instruction. And so there's that balance, right, between are we looking at the achievement or are we looking at the growth? And I think the growth is really important because that's the impact that we're having on students, but also that we noticed a bigger gap between math and evidence-based reading and writing, and we want to continue working on supporting our students and being successful.
Encouraging. Council?
I was say just this, I mean, the numbers here are super encouraging, and, for a tobacco tax grant, this is, money well spent, and I appreciate you bringing this. It was, it's good news.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else?
Yeah. And I think we're always looking for other opportunities, provided there are tobacco tax funds. Unfortunately, we said this over and over again, it doesn't go down the use of tobacco. So hopefully, if there are funds, we can find other ways to use them. Because this is, like Dieter said, the numbers kind of speak for themselves, and especially that first set. It's a big jump. So.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thanks a lot.
Congratulations.
Okay, next up, BPAC, the Basalt Public Arts Commission. Sarah? Exciting deal.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. I'm here presenting a staff on behalf of the Basalt Public Arts Commission, also known as BPAC, and their plans for our mural competition that will take place throughout historic downtown Basalt this summer. The intent of this mural competition, of course, is to promote public art, to promote public participation, as well as to activate and bring vitality to the historic district during the Midland Avenue Streetscape project's construction period this summer. To provide an overview, staff has worked with BPAC to create an application we'll be using to solicit artists. Artists can apply to be in one of two categories, either the student category or a more general category. BPAC will be meeting next month to choose participating artists from the selection of those who have applied. And we're expecting that this program could accommodate about approximately 8 to 10 artists in spaces throughout Basalt. So once they're selected, the artists will be assigned to a specific location throughout historic downtown that we've already vetted to create murals adjacent to businesses or in properties that are adjacent to businesses that really make sense in order to have a working artist on the site, and can accommodate boards that will be painted on. Approximately 4 by 6 is what we're thinking, these plywood boards. The artists will, again, be creating the murals on site, and this is going to be over a 10-day period in July. The theme that we've come up with is community, and that can be interpreted by the artists in their own individual and unique ways. The artists are going to be highlighted through the town's social media sites, websites, announcements made about the competition during the Wednesday night concert series. We'll utilize that vitality of the Basalt Sunday Market to really highlight the artists and their locations. And through community partner events, I've been speaking with one of the local coffee shops who are going to be doing open mic nights, kind of generate a lot of excitement around this. We're also planning on creating a map so that this is a walking tour of the artists throughout downtown Basalt, kind of starting, at this area maybe around Codger's Corner and sweeping around Midland Avenue and throughout the different areas of downtown Basalt as we see people that are interested in having a mural and artist outside their business, and also where the space makes the most sense and accommodates, having this mural. So after the work is completed, the public is going to be invited to vote on their favorite mural in each category. Probably give about a 2-week period for this to happen. And at the conclusion, we'll have a People's Choice Award in each category. And BPAC is also going to be choosing the overall winning mural in each category. So the winning mural in the student category will have their mural hung at or near the Basalt pool. And the winning mural in the more general category will be asked to recreate their mural or a similar likeness of that mural on a building in a location to be determined, and we're still working on those details. So to prepare for this, staff has spoken with and left letters to many of the local businesses in the area in order to answer questions and to gauge interest in having a mural adjacent to or located near their businesses. And I'm very happy to report there's been a lot of excitement, a lot of enthusiasm around this. People are really getting on board and expressing just, how creative and exciting this is for them. Some have been offered use of spaces just directly adjacent to their location as good areas to site those artists. And so staff is also working with the Public Works Department on the creation of a stand or a bracket or a system that will secure those murals in place. We see, like today, very windy days. We want to make sure this is a very safe and exciting process and not have any issues with that. So we are still working through some of the details, but we are beginning to advertise to the artists. I've actually spoken with an artist who kind of got wind of this through the letter to the businesses and has already expressed a lot of excitement and an idea. And so it's pretty great, the enthusiasm that's there around this competition. So, Michelle, is there anything you'd like to add to this?
No, I think this was an idea that was brought up by BPAC members, and it's been really exciting to be part of the process to actually bring it to life and just kind of add this other element of fun and interest in town while construction's going on that shows that we're still here, but also just kind of highlight our community members who are artists. I think we have a big community of artists here and art interest, and this is a way to combine two of the things at once. So we're super excited, and there's a lot of momentum here. I get excited sort of thinking about what art has done for the Rhino District in Denver, and of course we're not going that far, but if we can be 1/8 of that, that would be amazing. So that's the goal.
Great.
And where are the applications and all the information if we want to point somebody to it?
It's going to be available in the next day or two. It will be made available online. It will be highlighted through the town's, we'll start it with the town's website, probably put it as a news flash item on that very first page, and we'll link it to the BPAC webpage that's within the town's website, so that we'll find multiple ways to direct people to that site. I know our social media sites have been very successful. I like to post things on the Basalt community page. I feel like that gets a lot of traction there. So we will be getting this out in probably a myriad of ways.
Great.
Yeah.
Do we have does it look like there are lots of artists that'll be interested? I mean, is the awareness level pretty high? And
It's just starting to get aware.
Okay.
It's just starting to come to life. So, like I said, I spoke with a lovely lady who has passed information along to some of the local artists that she knows. I've been contacted by the muralist who actually created the flag that's on the back of the bus stop just adjacent here to Town Hall, who just expressed a lot of interest and excitement about the project. And, the people I've talked to said, yeah, I know exactly who I want to send this to. So I don't think it'll be a problem getting the word out. We've also had the benefit of having worked through BPAC and creating the murals that are already found throughout town. So we do have a lot of really great resources to be able to tap those artists and to get that interest going.
are they going to paint directly on the plywood, or can they?
Yeah, that's the idea. It'll be painted. I'm not an artist. I don't know what it would need to be treated with first, if that's a consideration. I imagine there's going to be a lot of different types. Maybe it's painting. I could imagine maybe it's, spraying. I don't know. There's probably a lot of ways. We're not dictating that it has to be, this is what you have to create or this is what you have to work with.
Right.
I think we're kind of keeping that open to artists, but with the consideration that public is nearby, we want to make sure that it's all safe and it's not impactful,
Great. Very cool. Questions, guys? Anything? Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks.
That's pretty neat. We're looking forward to
Happy to
it.
bring something fun to you tonight. Thank you.
Is Art Base involved? Are they collaborating with the BPAC on this, or strictly BPAC?
They haven't. We actually do have a member of the art base that sits on BPAC. So
Okay.
if through
There we go.
that means they are
That
collaborating.
answers it. Thanks.
Yeah.
That'll do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, 6C monthly Midland Avenue streetscape update. So Dave Detweiler and Catherine and Michelle. Good evening.
Good evening.
How you doing? Catherine, you coming up?
Dave Detweiler with Wember.
Does that trip over everything?
Let me start. Okay, well, happy to give you another update. We're on the homeward push, as you can see out here. In our report, we gave you a number of pictures. As I said last week, they're always so out of date because you can see real time where we're at this afternoon. So it always feels odd sending those. But sewer is done, water line is done. The last of the storm sewer system is happening up here. And as you saw probably earlier today, concrete curb and gutter is happening, including the entry at the spur at Two Rivers. So that's ongoing here for another week, and late next week you should start to see asphalt going down in the spurs. So that's the final push, other than landscaping, to getting it done and ready for your concerts. So phase two, I'll come back to the phase two conversation here in a little bit. But in my report, you'll see we talk about risks and challenges. Biggest risk still is what's under the ground. That will continue to be the number one risk for everything we do until this project is done, because you don't know until you get there, and you have to have a really quick answer. But your design team has been doing a fantastic job of giving those quick answers when we find something that isn't where it's supposed to be or not the right size. They are right on it and getting us the answers we need to keep going. The change order we'll talk about here in a little bit, so I won't go into that and steal Catherine's thunder. In my item 3 in the risk, we talk about the phase 2 bids that we received, and as has already been relayed, the value engineering that we have anticipated for many months is where we were going to get. I will point out that we always ask our projects to be somewhat aspirational, And we've been aware of budget crunches. You know, as a company, we have to track inflation numbers very specifically for all of our projects. And so when you keep that up, you know where things were that were budgeted several years ago and how the real inflation would go. So this is not a surprise to us. The numbers came in about where we thought, but we wanted to test, is the market really there? Would another bidder bring better value to the project? So we spent a lot of time talking about value engineering, and now we're ready to kick that off in earnest. And we already have a lot of ideas about how we're going to approach this, so this is not anything new to the team or a surprise in any way. Budget is still holding as it has been, and schedule is still holding as it has been. So one of the things, a couple things I do want to point out as we go into this next phase, one of the challenges we had here in the last few months as we put this thing out for proposals was that we're right in the heat of construction season. It's a hard time to get subcontractors to give the appropriate attention to projects that are bidding. They're out there doing the work every day, and it's hard to get numbers. So we think we will have a much more advantageous bid time in December, January, going into the 24 season. So that's part of the approach. The other thing that we did learn as part of this effort when we elected to split the project into 2 phases and proceed with phase 1 so we could keep on our schedule, but give some more attention to phase 2 was the community asked, well, what if you stopped over the summers? What would that do to construction costs and the duration? And what we proved with the proposals that we got is it would increase costs by at least 50%, and it would push the schedule out into 2025. We confirmed that as part of those phase 2 proposals, and so there was good value in pursuing that. So that's the end of my report. Questions, concerns?
So what are we shooting for as a completion date for phase 1 for the spur?
Phase 1, other than some landscaping kicking around, will be middle of July. It should be by that first concert. We're scheduled to pave on the 6th of July. But everything these days is if you miss it by a minute, you might miss it by a whole day because how busy everybody is. So I hedge on that just a little bit.
One slight correction. We'll have an initial pave day on July 6th, and then there'll be, we have another one scheduled for mid-end of July. So we should be wrapped by mid-end of July. So not quite by when the concert kicks off, but when the concert does open on the 12th, we'll have all the new parking available on Two Rivers Road. So that will be available, and then the remainder of the spur will come shortly after that. So.
Okay. So, questions? Ryan, do you have any comment on it? Okay. So we'll be getting the water line completed, and then we go back to the drawing board budget-wise and see what we can see what we can do. Okay. That's the state of play. So thank you.
Well, I think Catherine was going to talk about the.
Were you going to talk about phase 2?
Sorry, the agenda's a little bit broken up, but I'll be back in front of you after you hear your next agenda item, and we'll go into a little more detail on what we'll expect in this next phase of the project, which is the water line. But yeah, Dave was just here to mainly give an update on that first phase of the project.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Good update, thanks.
Thank you.
So that takes us to item number 7 on our council. We're at 6:50. We're 3 minutes behind. So this is a resolution of the town of Basalt, Pitkin, and Eagle counties finding the petition for annexation for the property known as the Jadwin property in substantial compliance with the requirements of the Municipal Annexation Act. So, evening, gentlemen. Who's Who's got this, James?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This item is consideration of the Jadwin Black Mountain Annexation Substantial Compliance Resolution. The owners of the Jadwin property at 431 Emma Road, which is Jadwin Park LLC, and we've got the applicants here this evening. We'll introduce them here in a second. They have submitted an annexation petition and annexation map, as well as an associated development application on the Jadwin property. The Jadwin property is a property which is about 9 acres, and we've got it up here on the screen and in your packet. It's located to the west of Basalt Post Office. Basalt Post Office is here, and it's on the south side of the Roaring Fork River. So this is the 9-acre property. It's partially in Eagle County and partially in Pickens County, so it's split by the county line, and it's in the urban growth boundary. The development proposal associated with the annexation request includes 68 dwelling units, 12 short-term rental cabins, and 7 seasonal glamping pads on the site, and they're proposing to also dedicate a piece of the property along Emma Road as a public property to potentially accommodate a daycare and other public use. A more detailed presentation of the proposal will happen at a later period in the review process after the initial annexation procedural steps are completed. The intent of this agenda item this evening is solely for the council to consider whether the annexation petition and associated map comply with the state requirements, and to set an annexation eligibility hearing for August 8th. And in analyzing the annexation petition and map, the petition includes the necessary signatures from 50% of the property owners of the annexation property. It also includes an affidavit for the circulator, and also has the associated annexation map, which includes the boundaries of the property as well as the legal description, and it also demonstrates the contiguity of the property with the town, which are annexation requirements provided by the state. And the property has previously been determined eligible for annexation in 2 past applications and instances. And staff believes that the petition and the map meet the annexation requirements set forth in the State Annexation Act. So this evening, as I noted, this is just kind of a procedural step in the state mandated annexation process. Upon passage of the resolution for substantial compliance, there would be a notice provided to both of the counties in which the property is located, as well as all of the special districts in which the property is located, and you would be setting a hearing date for August 8th for the annexation eligibility process. So once again, this is all part of the state annexation process. There are several procedural steps that have to occur before you actually get into the review of the development application. It is the town's policy, or it has been the town's policy, that the actual annexation of the property wouldn't occur until either concurrent with the development approval for the property, and that would take place well down the line. It is proposed to be a PUD, so once you get through these first annexation procedural steps, then you would get into the development review, which will have multiple rounds of public hearings with the Planning and Zoning Commission and Town Council. So once again, this is a state mandated procedural step. You'll have a full presentation on the application proposal that will occur once you get into the development review process and the PUD process. So this evening, staff would recommend hearing from the applicants about whether they have any comments on the annexation petition and map. And then You could consider approving the annexation substantial compliance resolution, which would set a hearing date of August 8th, and it would be a public hearing at that point. This evening, we've got Mark Chain, who's the planner for the applicant group. We also have Coulter and Bridger Smith, who represent the applicant group. Mark and Coulter and Bridger, do you guys have any comments on the annexation piece?
Just that we're happy to be here. We realize this is just the very beginning of the process. I'm a Carbondale-based planner, and I did help get Stotts Mill through, which took from 2006 through to 2020 until it finally got annexed and developed. So
Is that your time schedule for this project?
No. But the point I'm making is that, I don't show up for a year and a half and all of a sudden almost all, the entire board is almost different with the exception of the mayor. I think you were around at the end, Ryan, and then parts of the staff. So we look forward to working with you. The designers did take the cue from the master plan for that particular property for the Jadwin portion of the Jadwin-Stott property. That's what I knew it as, the Jadwin-Stott. We think we hit all the points in the master plan, affordable housing above the base level, taking care of green initiatives and renewable infrastructure and items like that. And we look forward to working with you through the sketch plan process in the next three and a half months. Do you have anything?
No, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Bridger Smith. This is my brother Coulter, and then actually our brother-in-law, who's the architect on the project. We're also working with Yancey Nichols of Sopris Engineering and Heather of Connect One, who I know you guys know very well. And we're really excited to move this forward and work with you through this process. We purchased the property, we put the property under contract in 2018, and so we've been following the master plan, and we watched it very carefully. We showed up to the public meetings, and we watched the feedback from the public. And since that point in time, we've been studying the property, really analyzing what we think really works for the town of Basalt. Growing up here and working, both my brother and I and my brother-in-law have been working in the built environment, pretty much our whole lives. So we're really aware of just, how construction works in the Roaring Fork Valley. We had, growing up, we were actually in civil excavation growing up here, and our father developed the wilds. I was here 30 years ago during his meetings. So now we're back here, looking forward to, hopefully putting together a successful project. Really two things I want to highlight, and then we can get into the details when we present to you more. Two things I want to highlight on the property. One, the proximity of this property lends itself to just a great location to walk into downtown Basalt, and to get to the bus stop, to get to the library, and also have the river access really close to the hopefully the future residences as a really nice public amenity. And then the other thing, so proximity, and then the other thing is the constraints of the property lend itself, because particularly the floodplain constraint, lend itself to have this amazing open space like park amenity on the property. So those are just two things that I wanted to highlight today, and then we can get into more of the details. I don't know if you guys have seen this for the first time or how familiar you are with it.
Questions of council, the applicant, or James, did you highlight that this is in the urban growth boundary?
It is in the urban growth boundary, yes.
Well, I'll go. I would just say, for my part, I think it is appropriate for this to be in the town of Basalt and under our land use jurisdiction. But I would have to caution you that, action on annexation, you cannot rely on annexation as in any way an indication that we're approving or, giving you any sort of signal that the land use sketch plan that is offered you know, I personally have, based at first glance, and I haven't looked at it in detail, but it looks very dense, and it looks to me like there are three-story buildings right on old Highway 82, and I just have great apprehensions about the density and the unit count on that site. So just be prepared. I mean, I think the annexation makes sense, but I think we have a long way to go in terms of coming to some resolution on what the appropriate land use mix is and density. I would have great concerns based on what I've seen so far about the land use side of it. So that's my 2 bits. Anyone else?
And I think staff would like to clarify, you're not annexing the property here. Annexation of the property wouldn't occur until
Right.
development approval is considered.
No, I just wanted to
Yep.
kind of articulate my sense about the whole deal here.
And I think affordable housing will be another topic, you know, appreciate the 35%, but I think that's gonna be a big discussion point as we get further in, because it's, whenever you add a bunch of free market housing, you're always increasing the demand for affordable, and it's just, it doesn't get any better without a really substantial dent at the affordable side, and that includes, you know, there'll be discussions about ownership, all that stuff is gonna come up, so you know that, but be prepared.
Just going to piggyback on what James had said and just kind of reiterate some procedural things. And James said, what's in front of us tonight, and all of these comments are good and fine. What's in front of us tonight is a resolution just to find that the petitioners have brought a petition that meets the requirements of the statute. It is not to get into the substantively, whether what they've alleged actually comply, you know, they've met all the requirements. It's just, we've alleged all the things that were required to by the statute. This is very much step one. And annexations have a kind of funky statutory procedural process, and we'll get into that. And annexations is also a legislative process, as opposed to just a purely quasi-judicial one. And so, yeah, this is a bit of a perfunctory first step, but all of these comments are certainly fine now, but we'll get into them in more detail in the future.
Well, I wouldn't have commented on it if the sketch plan hadn't been in our packets.
Oh, sure.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
there's a camel's nose in the tent sort of phenomenon here, and I just want to make it clear that,
No, of
you know,
course.
we're not signing off on anything here.
Yeah.
We understand.
James, I'm just curious, can you show us the 1/6 that's contiguous to town? Is that along the highway?
No, it's actually from the river. Let me bring it up. Sorry, I gotta share my screen on the Zoom here. So the 1/6 that's contiguous to the town is on the river side of the property. So you hit this area, and then you come up here, and then it also comes back down this way. So it's actually on the Roaring Fork River side of the property.
Don't suppose you could show that to us on the property, one of the property maps? I can't read that. I couldn't even read it if I had my glasses, I'm embarrassed to say.
Nobody can.
So the contiguity is up here.
Got it, okay.
Do it again, I'm sorry, I was looking up there. Okay, thanks.
And this is in the county.
Okay, interesting, thank you.
Brian, do you have?
Yeah, I guess my question, this is just for Jadwin parcel. Stott parcel isn't in the town either, right?
Stop parcel is not in the town.
And then that would be a whole nother annexation conversation if that's on the, where the community benefits are and the,
It would be, yeah. if
it would
they-
be,
if they
that's gonna
provided
be
an application.
a whole nother, okay.
This is Jadwin only.
Yeah, I see that. I was just clarifying because there's other information on the Stott parcel and it's like, just trying to understand the whole deal.
Comments? Questions?
Mayor, I move the town council approve resolution number 25, series of 2023.
Second.
Okay, been moved and seconded. I think we can do this with voice vote? Or
We got
nay?
Angela.
Angela's remote, so we should
Okay.
do it.
So we will call the roll then, Pam, thanks.
Of course. Let's begin with David Knight.
Yes.
Angela Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you. Glenn Drummond.
Yes.
Elise Hoddle.
Abstain.
Ryan Slack.
Yes.
Bill Kane.
Yes.
And Dieter Schindler.
Yes.
Motion carries.
See you in August.
Thank you, gentlemen. So,
Thanks.
be seeing you again.
See you in a couple months.
Okay, so Catherine's back for resolution number 26, series of 2023. Is a resolution number 26, series of 2023, approving contract change order number 2 for water utility construction of the Midland Avenue Streetscape project. Catherine
Mayor, I'm
and Michelle.
recusing myself.
Okay.
Great, yes. Mayor and council, thanks for having us this evening. Tonight I'm bringing to you a contract for this next phase of the Midland Avenue Streetscape project. On March 30th of this year, the town advertised an RFP for Phase 2 of the Midland Avenue Streetscape project. A site visit was held with 5 interested contractors on April 18th. And prior to the proposal closing on June 1st, we received two proposals from 2 very qualified contractors. Town staff, Dave Detweiler, members of the design team reviewed the proposals, interviewed both proposers, considered their proposed schedules, and also called references. As part of their proposal, Stutzman Gerbaz committed to completing the project in 2024, which was in an effort to minimize impacts to the community. The team of Stutzman Gerbaz has proposed to keep the project on schedule by constructing the extent of the new water main and the associated water services in 2023. While the water infrastructure is being installed, the remainder of the project will need to go through a VE process to be sure the scope and budget meet the town's budgetary requirements and the design expectations of the citizens of Basalt who voted favorably in support of the project. Throughout the Midland project design phase, Stutzman Gerbaz has been an integral member of the team. And since moving into construction, they've really just showed more what a key member they are. They've allowed the town to realize project savings, problem solved in the field, communicated well with staff, kept a clean and safe construction site, performed overnight work in a way that minimized impacts to citizens, and helped in the overall public outreach for the project in general. Staff recommends moving forward with Stutzman Gerbaz for the construction of the water main and the associated water services. There is one change in the packet material. The change order amount will actually see a bit of a reduction of $65,000 to $1,805,406.14. The picture you see before you tonight is an approximate alignment of the water main that will be installed starting around August 1st of this year, just as they complete the phase 1 of the project. You will see that water main runs along Midland Ave and then turns northward into the east as it makes its connection to the water main that exists where Midland intersects with Homestead. The water main will be installed and tested first, and then they'll come back and do the services that are associated with that main, which are mostly on the north side of the street. So tonight we're here to take any questions you have around this next phase of the project, and we also have Shay representing Stutzman Gerbaz with us this evening to answer any specific construction questions that you may have that he may be better at answering than I.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks. Questions, guys?
I do have one question
Go ahead,
on the position of the water main on that side of the street, and most of the connections are on the other side? Is it because of the other utilities on that side of the street that it's hard to put it on the other side, or I know
Yeah,
it's
so
been thought
there's-
out, I just wanna.
Yeah, there's a lot driving its location. The most important thing is we have to keep everyone in service while we install this. And the current water main is located on that north side of the street. And additionally, we will be installing a new stormwater system which runs through the center of the street. And the engineering and really public health requirements on maintaining a 10-foot horizontal offset from those wet utilities is what pushes the requirement that that new water main be further to the south. There's also, there'll be, in theory, less utilities that they might run into, and potentially some savings when they have that more clear corridor to the south where they can install that main. But really, it's that 10-foot offset that's driving the placement of that new line to the south. And additionally, the sanitary sewer main is also running along that north side. So maybe even more importantly is that we maintain the offset from that utility main.
Awesome, thank you.
And then is this gonna get paved?
Yeah, it'll be a temporary pave for winter before they come back in the early spring. And you also see included in the packet, there is a letter of intent to continue to move forward with Stutzman Gerbaz through the duration of phase 2. So we won't be going out to bid again. The intent is for them to, again, work with us through the VE process and then, get sub pricing and whatnot again this winter. And then we'll continue with Shay and his team through the next phase.
I'm just kind of curious about the construction technique here. So this is the old line ductile iron?
Sis, I believe Shay's been finding it more than cast, yeah.
It's not clay, is it? Oh, good.
This is sewer main.
So we're going to have redundant lines in the ground for a period of time, and so you get both of them in there, and then you do a switch over at midnight. And is that kind of the way it goes?
Yeah, so, if you want, I can come up if you'd like. Essentially, the two lines the main needs to stay charged and needs to to go through its testing procedure of bacteria and pressure and all of those things to make sure that it's safe for the public. So the way that we can make it so that it impacts the businesses and each resident for the least amount of time as possible is leave both lines live and do a quick switch over so people realize maybe only a couple hours of out of service. So it's the best, safest way to keep everybody in
Pretty cool.
water service.
Pretty cool. So does the whole trench have to stay open? No. Oh, that gets switched over in segments, yeah.
So it'll be, a moving kind of train, if you will, as we move up Midland.
Okay.
Correct.
Great. Thanks. That's good. That's pretty good engineering. Yancey involved in this?
Sobris is part of the overall
Great.
team, yeah.
Okay. No further questions.
Just want to say thanks for thinking this through and coming with that you guys did the legwork to try to figure out another way. This is really well thought out. I know everybody would like to probably see things not happen in the summer, but it's just not fiscally responsible. So I just want to say thanks for all this. This is good.
And the job site looks great as far as construction goes, so thank you very much for that.
Okay.
Mayor, I move the town council adopt resolution number 26, series of 2023.
Second.
Been moved and seconded.
Voice vote.
Absolutely. Let's begin with Angela Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you. Glenn Drummond.
Yes.
Ryan Slack.
Yes.
Bill Kane.
Yes.
Dieter Schindler.
Yes.
And David Knight.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks, Shay. Keep up the good work out there.
Very impressive.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So that takes us, pardon?
Oh, I said it has the kids entertained.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool for all ages.
So this takes us to our next order of business, which is Public hearing and second reading for ordinance number 9, series of 2023. An ordinance of the Town Council, Town of Basalt, Colorado, granting special review, minor PUD amendments, site plan review, community housing review, environmentally sensitive area review, and associated development reviews for the construction of a domestic abuse shelter at 323 East Cody Lane, Lot H, Basalt Business Center, East PUD, Basalt, Colorado. Why didn't we just say the whole land use code?
Yeah.
So.
I won't repeat what the mayor just said, but this is a public hearing and a second reading of an ordinance that would approve of an application submitted by response. And as noted by the mayor, it's for a special review and PUD amendment and associated land use actions to construct a domestic abuse shelter at 325 East Cody Lane. As discussed at first reading, the property is approximately 28,000 square feet, and it's a vacant lot at the end of East Cody Lane, as you can see here on the map. It's zoned industrial PUD and part of the Basalt Business Center East PUD. And as was noted at the last meeting, there are portions of the property that are in the floodplain. The proposal, as was described at first reading, is to construct a domestic abuse shelter. It's proposed to contain office space for response of about 2,000 square feet, as well as a domestic abuse shelter of about 7 client rooms and 1 deed-restricted community housing unit. They've also proposed to have 17 off-street parking spaces. It was noted at first reading that the applicants received approval of a PUD amendment last year to add a domestic abuse shelter use as a special review use to the Lot H of the Basalt Business Center East PUD. The applicants at that time did not have a specific design and operations plan for the site. So now, as was indicated at first reading, they have a site-specific development plan for consideration by the council, and it was in the first reading packet that council received. At first reading, staff identified a series of discussion items that were reviewed and analyzed by the P&Z. They included consistency with the master plan, similar uses in other communities, the dimensional requirements, design and materials, the affordable and community housing component, as well as floodplain ESA and technical aspects of traffic and off-street parking. It was also analyzed the acknowledgement of the existing industrial uses would be incorporated into contracts for clients on the site. And so staff is happy to answer any questions or go back into any of these topics that council would like to explore further. But P&Z and the Basalt Affordable Community Housing Committee, BAC, were recommending approval of the application with the conditions that we have in the draft ordinance. Council approved the draft ordinance on first reading at the last meeting, and there's only been a slight adjustment to the floor area for clarification on condition 4 that you have in your draft ordinance. Otherwise, there haven't been any changes to the ordinance since first reading. So this evening, staff would recommend hearing any comments that the applicants have, taking public comment because it is a public hearing, and council providing discussion. Ultimately, if you're comfortable with the ordinance and the conditions, you could approve the ordinance on second reading. We do have the applicants here this evening. We've got Aaron Wackerly of Benden and Adams representing the applicant group, and we've got Shannon from Response. Aaron, do you have comments?
Yeah, thank you, James. Hi, good evening. We're here, as James stated, seeking approval of the second reading of the draft ordinance for the Response project. We want to give a big thank you to town staff, to you, town council, to the Planning and Zoning Commission, BAC committee, everyone on the design team, 2757 Design, DHM Design, Crystal River Civil, and of course, all the supporters and donors, volunteers of Response who have all, helped make this project possible. At your request, from first reading, we did put together a fencing plan that, if we could show to you briefly, that highlights some of the just different areas. There is a lot of fencing on this site. So this will highlight some of the different areas in different colors. The blue there is along Highway 82. It's a little hard to see on the screen, but on the southern perimeter there in green is fencing at the southern property line. In purple is children's play area fencing that attaches there, to the orange, which is the underside of the building, which will be on Pierce, as we described last time, and then also the red section of fencing, which will be secure fencing for the secure parking for some of the clients. And then the second page gives a little bit more detail in terms of what the fencing actually looks like in all these different areas. The fencing along the highway will, as you can see, be more secure, more privacy, accompanied by green screening as detailed in first reading. The fencing is required to be floodplain compliant. As you know, we're located in a mapped ESA floodplain. And we have been in communication with our neighbors and informed them of our design intent in terms of the fencing. So please let us know if you have any more questions or would like any more detail on this portion of the site plan. If not, Shannon, I know you want to make a couple comments as well.
I'm glad I made it to second reading this time. Last time there was a snowstorm or something, and I ran in just as you guys said aye. So glad to be here to thank you in person for helping us through this process. It's been a long road, and it's going to be a super exciting thing for the community and for Response clients to have this, and a great asset for Basalt. So thank you for your support and guidance along the way.
Great. This is a public hearing, so at this point I would open the floor for anybody from the public that would like to comment on the application. Anybody calling in, we'd be happy to take your comments, or anybody in the audience that wants to make a comment. The floor is open, so come on up, sir.
I haven't really seen the plans. I'm John Cerise, adjacent property owner, but the other fences looks like they're 8 feet tall. We'd like to see an 8-foot fence between us and them. So
Okay.
It's proposed at 6
Great.
feet right now.
So you've reviewed these fence plans?
I have not.
Okay. Well, we'll be in communication with you about that, I'm sure. Any other comments? Anyone calling in? Hearing none. Any questions from council, the applicant, or James?
Just a question on the fence plan. If the red is sort of a security fence, it does look like there's a gap. Is there a architectural wall feature there?
Yeah, I believe so on that one.
It's like it
on
looks,
the area with the secure fencing. Is that?
Yeah, it's surrounding the trash area. I mean, it.
Right, yeah, so the top of that, and I believe we have the architects on, so please, I'll let them pitch in if I say this incorrectly. So the top of it is solid for privacy purposes.
Okay.
And then the bottom is kind of a combination. The bottom is a hog wire fencing, which is the requirement for the floodplain requirement, so that.
But to me, I guess I just in between the red and the green, maybe this is a dumb question, but it looks like there's a gap. So it's hard to take it as security fencing then.
Right.
There's not a gap there. I don't remember what kind of fencing it is, but.
Do you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do see
That
that,
was the
yeah.
question I have for security fencing.
Right,
Seems
yeah.
like it's not finished. I mean, that may be splitting hairs, but it would be, that's just a question.
Yeah, no, it's going to be fully contained back there.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
fully contained,
Yeah.
thank you.
Is there any issue meeting the request of the neighbor's 8-foot fence. Is that a problem?
It says it all is, doesn't it?
No, the bottom is 6 foot. I'm guessing he's he would be on fence number 5.
South property line, that's correct.
Be a good neighbor. Is that any issue or?
I know the design intent with that fencing there on the southern perimeter, and the reason why it was set to be 6 feet is that area also abuts the open space area, and the intent is, you know, this shelter is providing refuge for any clients who are going to be visiting it, and this area is, you know, open space, and I feel that the design team thought that, you know, taller fencing beyond 6 feet might feel a little bit like an imprisonment, you know, but the design team can certainly continue to, you know, look for a mutually agreeable solution that, of course, first and foremost satisfies the needs of the project and ultimately of the clients who will be at this site.
Do we know why they want 8 feet?
He's right there with you guys.
You're the council member.
Oh, is there any reason why you want 8 feet?
More just keep security, people, trash,
But 6 feet.
uniform.
Okay. But like all your fence on the side of south side is like no fence, right? It's just split rail.
They're not what, sorry?
All the fencing on your property on like from south side is split rail, isn't it? Like that backs up to the south side homes?
South side of that.
That fencing on your property is just split rail, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
It doesn't work effectively for sure.
Okay.
And they have to go on our side of the fence to fix it.
Yeah.
That's not acceptable. They had a 10-foot easement, they fixed it on their side.
10-4.
Thanks for doing the fence plan, though.
Further questions, comments? Nobody calling in, Pam? No?
No, I don't
Okay.
believe so. Let me see if I have any hands up.
I would
I don't think
entertain
there
a
are any
motion.
hands up. There are not.
Mayor, I move the town council adopt ordinance number 9, series of 2023 on second reading.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Pam, please call the roll.
All right. Let's begin with Elise Hoddle. Oh, she's here.
I'm here for this one. Yes.
Thank you. Ryan Slack,
Yes.
Bill Kane,
Yes.
Dieter Schindler,
Yes.
David Knight,
Yes.
Angela Anderson,
Yes.
and Glenn Drummond.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Great work.
Oh, I also wanted to say thank you for the tobacco tax grant that we got for 2023
Great. Well,
outreach.
congratulations and best of luck to you guys. Keep in touch with the Cerise family about the fencing. Okay, next item, 7D. This is a public hearing and second reading. Ordinance number 10, series of 2023, ordinance Town Council, Basalt, Colorado, granting a PUD amendment to permit a single-family residence with a home daycare at 400 Alexander Lane, Lot 1 of the South Side PUD, Phase 4. James.
Thank you. We have Mayor here with us this evening once again. This is a public hearing and second reading of an ordinance on an application submitted by NJS Kinder Cottage LLC, requesting a PUD amendment to change the commercial daycare at 400 Alexander Lane into a single-family residence and a home daycare. As was noted at first reading, the property is approximately 11,000 square foot lot in the South Side 4 PUD, and you see it here. This is Alexander Lane. This is the subject property, and you've got Meyer Steel back here. It is zoned industrial PUD, and the daycare was permitted on the site pursuant to the site-specific development plan that was approved by ordinance number 2 of 2017. And as was discussed at first reading, the background is that the South Side 4 PUD lots, and there's 4 of them, you can see them running right here, They all permit 2 structures per lot, with 1 commercial structure and 1 residential structure allowed per lot. And the PUD requires that the commercial structure be in place before or concurrent with the residential structure. And so the applicants have requested to turn the existing commercial daycare into a single-family residence with a home daycare. At the last meeting, the applicant indicated that it was for financial reasons in terms of being able to not serve the 30 kids covered under the commercial daycare license anymore. And so a PUD amendment has been requested to turn it into a home daycare. At first reading, there were a series of discussion items that were in the council's packet, and they were analyzed. They included consistency with the master plan, consistency with the intent of the Southside 4 PUD, the suitability of the building for the residential use, as well as vehicular access to the home daycare and conversion back to a commercial space. And then there were also the topics of community housing mitigation exemption, traffic and parking and vested rights. Town staff would be happy to answer questions or go into more detail on any of these topics that we discussed at first reading, if council has questions. But it should be noted that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the proposed PUD amendment with the conditions that you have in your draft ordinance. And so this evening, staff would recommend taking any applicant comments and then taking public comments, as it is a public hearing, and then providing council discussion. If you're comfortable with the ordinance, you could approve the ordinance on second reading. And once again, if you have council questions, staff would be happy to go back into any of these topics that we went over at first reading. Mayor, do you have any comments for the council?
No, you did great.
Okay. Comments, questions, public hearing, so we will invite anyone from the audience or anybody calling in that wants to comment on the item, can talk to us. Hearing none.
Mayor, I move the town council adopt ordinance number 10, series of 2023 on second reading.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. We will have to call the roll.
Okay. Let's begin with Glenn Drummond,
Yes.
Elise Hoddle,
Yes.
Ryan Slack,
Yes.
Bill Kane,
Yes.
Dieter Schindler,
Yes.
David Knight,
Yes.
and Angela Anderson.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you, Angela. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Mary, we won't want you to go without extending a warm thank you for all your service to kids in this community for all these years. You've done a whale of a job with some tough times.
Thank you for letting me continue to serve.
Yeah, great.
Thank you for wanting to continue to serve.
They're precious. Good night.
So that takes us to 7E, public hearing, second reading, ordinance number 12, series of 2023, an ordinance Town Council, Town of Basalt, Colorado, approving an easement agreement with 104 Midland Avenue, planned community for 104 Midland Avenue. So there'll be 3 of these, and we'll hopefully can work through these expeditiously.
Mayor, I'll
So-
be recusing myself for all 3.
Okay, thanks. So any comments from public or call-in?
I'll find you.
Hearing none, questions of council. Entertain a motion to approve.
Mayor, I move the town council adopt ordinance number 12, series of 2023 on second reading.
Second.
We need to do a public hearing.
I think you did.
You did.
That
You
went
opened-
back
you
on.
opened it.
It was very quick.
Oh, I missed it. That was so quick. Okay, thank you.
It was opened at 7:38 and closed at 7:38 and 10
0.5.
seconds.
7:38 and a half.
And I'm sorry, who made the motion?
Been moved and seconded.
Second. Second.
Motion and second. Okay, thank you so much. Sorry about that. You guys were so fast. Okay, let's begin with Bill Kane,
Yes.
Dieter Schindler,
Yes.
David Knight,
Yes.
Angela Anderson,
Yes.
Glenn Drummond,
Yes.
and Ryan Slack.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
All righty. 7F, public hearing, second reading of ordinance number 13, series of 23. An ordinance of the Town Council, Town of Basalt, Colorado, approving an easement agreement with Charson Inc. for 110 Midland Avenue. I think we know what this is
Yep,
about.
This is 2 of 3, an easement agreement.
Very similar.
On a property here along Midland to accommodate some of the improvements that are part of the Midland Streetscape project.
Yep. So, any comment from public audience? Anyone want to call in, comment? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve
Mayor, I
ordinance
move
number
that the
13.
town council adopt ordinance number 13, series of 2023 on second reading.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Pam?
Caught him this time. Thank you. Let's begin with Ryan Slack.
Yes.
Bill Kane.
Yes.
Dieter Schindler.
Yes.
David Knight.
Yes.
Angela Anderson.
Yes.
Glenn Drummond.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Okey doke. The last third of these is public hearing, second reading for ordinance number 14, series of 23, an ordinance of the Town Council, Town of Basalt, Colorado, approving an easement agreement with Midland Mall Condominium Association for the 132 Midland Avenue. Similar, this is easement agreement for public improvements. So any comments from the public in audience or calling in? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 14.
Mayor, I move that the town council adopt ordinance number 14, series of 2023 on second reading.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call the roll, please.
Absolutely. Let's begin with Angela Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you. Glenn Drummond.
Yes.
Ryan Slack.
Yes.
Bill Kane.
Yes.
Dieter Schindler.
Yes.
David Knight.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. We got those 3 wrapped up. That takes us on to public hearing and second reading for ordinance number 15, an ordinance of the Town of Basalt, Colorado, approving amendments to the municipal code, chapter 18, building regulations. So, yes.
Just do what you just did.
Well, you have to present. Your name's on it, Michelle. We need to know what's going on. Those are easements. Jeff already told us.
Jeez. Okay, then. For the record, this is an update to the Chapter 18 Building Code Regulations. In first reading was held on June 13th and passed. The primary impetus of these building code updates is to adopt the 2021 IECC to achieve Basalt's climate action plans. During the last reading, you had asked if we are seeing any cash in lieu payments instead of following the building code regulations, and we are not. Mitch has been able to work with everybody that's come in on a building permit. And the great thing about these updated building codes and our sustainable building regulations is that there are prescriptive regulations. So instead of having one set version of requirements, there are ways that projects can meet the building codes through a variety of avenues. And
Okay.
that's my presentation.
So this is a public hearing. Are there any comments from the public, either in the audience or calling in? Hearing none. Any questions from council? Entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 15.
Mayor, I move that the town council approve ordinance number 15, series of 2023 on second reading.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Absolutely. Let's begin with Elise Hoddle.
Yes.
Ryan Slack.
Yes.
Bill Kane.
Yes.
Dieter Schindler.
Yes.
David Knight.
Yes.
Angela Anderson.
Yes.
And Glenn Drummond.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Okay, it takes us to public hearing and second reading for ordinance 16, series of 23. Ordinance of the Town Council, Town of Basalt, Colorado, amending the 23 budget and providing for supplemental appropriation related to various revenue and expenditures. Doug Pattison is presiding here.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this, no change from last time we presented this, other than numbering the exhibit pages and clarifying that the expense was for the logo. That wasn't included in the initial one. So just to recap, the additional revenue that we're going to be adding to the budget is $2,678,000 and $381. Just rounding up, 598 is going to go to the general fund. The restricted fund is 847, and then the capital construction fund was $1,232,000. And then we had additional expenses that we're going to be adding to the budget of $2,230,000. $449,000 was from the general fund. $1,728,000 was from the restricted fund, and then the water fund was $52,000. So net, we're up $447,000 at the end of the day. And principally, you know, it's all good news. We had some unanticipated grants that came to fruition. We have interest income that's now being harvested by reason of higher rates. We did have some unanticipated expenses, but most of what the carryover, most of the additional expenses were the result of additional carryovers from budgeted items in the prior year that we did not use current year. So that's what we have. We'll probably have another one when we comb through second quarter, but that's where we're at right now.
Great. Okay, I think, yeah, there was a good summary in our packet, so we all had a chance to see it there too, so thank you. Any comments? This is a public hearing, so any comments from the public, either here or calling in? Hearing none, any questions of council for Doug? I would entertain a motion to approve ordinance 16.
Mayor, I move that the town council approve ordinance number 16, series of 2023 on second reading.
Second.
Moved and seconded, please call the roll.
Thank you. Let's begin with David Knight,
Yes.
Angela Anderson,
Yes.
Glenn Drummond,
Yes.
Elise Hoddle,
Yes.
Ryan Slack,
Yes.
Bill Kane,
Yes,
Dieter Schindler.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
great. So the next order of business, and I think the last order of business for the night, is presentation and acceptance of the 22 audit. Doug, and do we have a rep from McMahon? No.
Yes.
Yep, Paul.
We do.
Paul's here.
Virtually.
See you there?
Well, it takes a minute to go through outer space.
There. Okay.
There it is.
All right.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Paul.
Thank you for letting me join tonight virtually. This is my second council meeting. I had Town of Avon earlier, so.
Wasn't as good as this one, though, right?
It was not.
Good start.
They did a downtown development authority, which is an accounting headache, so I'm going with Basalt.
Not over yet.
So,
Doug, I don't know if you want to start off or you want me to start off, or?
how do you want to do it, Doug?
Yeah, I think this is my first spin through here. This is my first presentation of a budget or as an audit. But I think it's been a pretty clean audit we had. There was no significant changes from what we had presented sometime in April on what the year end looked like. I think we had good collaboration with what was a new manager on the account and with Paul. We had a good exit meeting. I had a good discussion with all of the various department heads when they were here. I worked closely with Jenny. Jenny was really at the fulcrum of all of the detail. We both checked each other since there's those two of us.
Great.
So anyway, I think it was of all the audits I've been involved in, it's probably one of my easier ones or less stressful ones, put it that way. So, I don't know, Paul, if you want to add anything here, you can take us through the financials. I was thinking that you would do that. Right?
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead, Paul.
Sure. Don't call me an easy auditor, though.
Easy audit.
So I think a fair number of you know me, but I'll just introduce myself. So I'm Paul Bacchus. I'm a CPA. I'm with McMahon and Associates. Our firm is a little unique. All we do is financial statement audits. I think we audit every town or every municipality in both Pitkin and Garfield counties, but and really a vast majority of all the ones in the Central Rockies. I think the last time I looked at the Colorado Association of Ski Towns, we had about 80 or 90% of them as clients of ours. And so I'm pleased to be here to go through the town of Basalt, even though I am familiar with the town's financials. We do try and always have one person on the engagement that's worked on it before, one person that's new. As Doug mentioned, we had a brand new manager on the engagement this year, and really it went very well. You never quite know what you're going to find when you have a new finance director, but it really went smoothly, as Doug mentioned. So I'm just going to share my screen and walk you through a few highlights. This is actually your audit binder. And so just to understand kind of what we do planning, fieldwork, and reporting. And so the planning part is really about understanding the town, what's happening, reading all your minutes, ordinances, resolutions, looking through the internal controls. So this is all documentation on each of your departments. You can see we met with your rec department, with building and planning, cash disbursements, and we go through and try and understand how our transactions being processed. And what we're really looking for is proper segregation of duties, and is every dollar collected making it to the bank properly? Is every dollar that goes out related to town business and budgeted for and paid timely, things like that. Once we're done with that, we put together we actually start verifying numbers. So this is the verifying numbers part, which we call field work. And you can see in here, here's your investment policy, various operating and investment accounts. There's confirmations to accounts that we send. So the goal is, if your financial statements say, as an example, you had, this is a confirmation we sent to Colatrust, you had X dollars in the general fund. Here we had the general fund that we had $11 million in there, but that's what actually shows up on your books. So we know it's in the bank, it's invested according to statute, it follows your investment policy, it's covered by FDIC insurance or another thing called the Public Deposit Protection Act, but it's a good, reasonable investment for the town to have. We go through your receivables. We want to make sure we collect everything that we should. Is it being deposited timely and coded correctly? We go through various agreements you have, and whether it's prepaid expenses or things like that, other current assets. The town, like a lot of municipalities, has a huge amount of infrastructure kind of constantly going on, it seems like. So we want to make sure we're tracking our assets correctly, we're capitalizing them, we're depreciating them, they're insured, things like that. So we have documentation of kind of that entire policy and all the assets, listing all the assets. Same thing with payables. We want to make sure we're paying on time, no interest, late fees. It's a reasonable expense for the town to undertake, and you as council budgeted it. We go through, your police are part of a FPPA statewide pension plan, a defined benefit disability plan, so we have to do some stuff on that. Then we go through your various employee policies and contracts and make sure that we filed all the information that we should with the IRS, but ultimately that information backs up what's in your financial statements. Same thing with the other big area would be debt. When you pass, when you issue COPs or general obligation bonds, as an example, there's a lot of promises that occur, and we have to make sure, we have the correct reserve fund, we're accounting for it correctly, we're reporting it to the SEC, things like that. Same thing with leases. And then we do a fair amount of making sure, you passed various ballot questions in the past. Do we comply with our ballot questions? Are we doing what we told the electorate we would? And we go through various municipal state statutes for home rules and make sure we complied with those. And then there's also federal grant auditing that's included in it. So, you can see your two-person department uploaded 424 different work papers. That's what we have in. I guess not all of those were provided by the town. We get a lot from kind of outside sources, whether it's state grants, federal grants, things like that. But 424 different documents were scanned in and looked at to help verify the financial statements are correct. And Basalt does kind of a higher level of financial reporting called an ACFR. And this is your ACFR right here. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger. I'm always battling against the Zoom. So the ACFR is, look, I know when you get the packet, you're like, oh man, it's, however many pages, 132 pages. And that's because it's really not just for a council. It's also for, it goes to all your bond holders, all your COP holders, the SEC for issuing debt, your banking relationships, your insurance relationships, the federal government as part of receiving federal grants, Colorado State Auditor, state grants. So there's just a lot of different users, and that's kind of why it's a long report. But as I mentioned, you do this higher level reporting, which really makes it easier when or if you have to issue debt or get bond ratings and things like that. But the entire report is covered by an independent auditor's report. It's referred to as a clean or an unmodified opinion. It means all those parties that look at it can use it to make the decisions they have to. There is, different sections in here. There's charts and graphs, but section B, if you don't like numbers, is probably the place you should spend your time. That's called the Management Discussion and Analysis, or MD&A. That's prepared by Doug and his team to provide users with information on what's going on. That's things like your schedule of year-end resources. Here you can see your capital construction fund grew that chart a little. Where do you collect your money? Where do you spend your money? What's differences between budget and actual, and why did they occur? And what's happening with sales and use tax collections. The mountain towns are really great for sales tax collections this year. And then what do we have for restricted funds? Basalt's a little unusual compared to a lot of municipalities in the fact that you have a lot of restricted funds, just from various ballot questions you have. But I'm just going to jump to page C5. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on the financials unless you want me to, because really there isn't a whole lot of changes from, in fact, there's really no changes from what you're seeing as a council on your regular reporting. But municipal governments have various funds, and those funds, think of them as kind of pockets of money. So we have the general fund, which is your primary fund. Then we have restricted fund, which is all those restricted dollars that come in that I referred to earlier. Then some smaller funds, debt service fund and capital construction fund. So essentially we had money coming in of $20 million into all the funds. Think of that as deposits in the bank, effectively. And then we have expenditures going out. They're in these broad categories, but there's more information on what makes those up in the back if you want to know what is general government or public safety or public works. That's all in the back. And then we have some other financing sources and uses. Those are things like transfers in and out, issuance of your GO bonds right here. Take the revenues or the deposits, subtract the outflows or checks, and you get this net change in fund balances. And you basically added $1.9 million to your general fund. The restricted funds added $1.4 million, and some of those restrictions went up and down, and you can see that in that MD&A page. And then the other big one is the issuance of your GO debt, added $17 million to the capital construction fund. So as far as kind of money in the bank goes, for 2022, we added $20,694,000. We started the year with $8.6 million in the general fund, $15 million across all our funds. We ended the year with $10.5 million in the general fund and $35 million across all our funds. So what this is designed to tell you is what happened to our bank accounts, basically. Bank accounts went up $20.6 million. That's the majority of that is coming from, $17.6 million of debt issued. So then if you want to look at it so this is kind of like a cash basis, but if you wanted to look at it like a business would on another basis of accounting called full accrual, and that's designed on a longer term view to determine whether you're further ahead or further behind. And if you want this number to go up, issue $17 million of debt. That doesn't necessarily make you financially better off. Or don't do any maintenance or maintaining any assets or purchase new assets. Well, your cash balances will go up. You wouldn't necessarily be better off financially. So you take this 20 million here, and we're going to adjust it to a full accrual basis to look at your financials on a long term like a business would. So the first thing we have to do is we capitalize all the fixed assets we purchased, and then we depreciate them over time. So that's charging the cost of the asset over its life. The other big one is we issued long-term debt. This is 19 million, the other was 17 million because there was a premium on the bonds issued, which is based upon the interest rate at sales price. So I won't geek out on you on that if you don't want me to. But we have to back that off because even though we had more money in the bank, that money came from borrowing it. So although we increased our cash balances 20.6 million, on a longer term basis, all our governmental funds would have had net income of a little over $9 million. And so what that tells me is on a short term basis, we added to our cash balances, but we're not making any decisions that look really good on the short term basis that are going to cause problems on a longer term basis. And sometimes you see that where people issue operating debt or they refinance debt longer than the life of an asset. Those of us that follow this type of stuff, the city of Chicago leased all their parking meters for a 5-year period and got all the cash up front, so their balances looked really good, but on a longer term basis they had problems. So that's the financial statements. I guess what I would consider the highlights. I'd be happy to stop at this point and just answer any questions there are. Otherwise, I have a letter that I'll run through with some other stuff that I need to cover.
Okay. Did anything jump out at you on your kind of departmental review, like weird reporting or unorthodox?
No. We're really looking at how do dollars make it in to the bank and how do they go out. And it's really trying to make sure that you have good internal controls. Now, we also do some data analysis, significant data analysis. Like as an example, we take all your purchasing cards and we dump them into one file, and then we can sort them to see what charges occurred on a weekend, what charges occurred by a vendor code. Were there any charges to liquor store vendor code? No. Things like that. Really, the town strikes me as a very well-run municipality. And look, it's our job to look out for you as council, and I don't take that lightly, but this is one of the more pleasant presentations I get to do.
Well, they were the magic words I was looking for. This is a really well-run municipality. I was fishing. I kept getting deeper and deeper there. Got it, though.
Yeah, Ryan should be smiling at that. So let me just go through a couple other things, and then I'll answer any other questions you guys have. So there is a lot more in here. I'm not gonna, as I mentioned, I won't really spend time going through it. But there is information in here as far as where you have your money invested, what capital assets you have. The one area that people sometimes are interested in is the debt. You can see here's various changes in debt that you have. Here's your A bonds, your 2022 B bonds, GO bonds that were added to that capital fund. And then here's your payments on your COPs. this is, what do we have restrictions for on the restricted funds? And then there's budget actual information in here and statistical information. You can see this as part of your highway user fund. We have to report on that to make sure you get your money from the state for highway user reports. And then the other thing I just mentioned is that this year we had to do you received a little over $1 million in coronavirus funding, federal funding, so we have to do what's called a single audit on that. But again, all that turned out to be clean and no concerns. There is a letter that should be in your packet, and let me see if I can get to it here. Here we go. And this is just things that we have to report to you as independent auditors. So, it has, I call it nerd herd language, qualitative aspects of accounting policies. That means what accounting standards were implemented. We had to implement this standard on leases. It just kind of changed how leases are reported, but it didn't have a significant impact on Basalt. It's painful for counties, but most municipalities don't have a huge amount of leases. And then what estimates do we have? Sometimes you have some really hard to estimate items, like maybe environmental liability or a legal liability. You have pretty standard estimates. Are you going to collect all your receivables? Historically, you have. How long do you keep your capital assets and use them, but you use standard lives, and I wouldn't change anything there. And then is the FPPA pension, fire and police pension liability, you're a member of that, so you actually share in a liability. But FPPA is actually very well run for a pension. About half the time it's a pension asset and half the time it's a liability. They do a good job at running that, collecting what they're going to pay out. There were really no difficulties encountered in the audit. You never know what you're going to get with new finance director, and I'm sure he feels that way about an auditor, but really it went smoothly. We set up a portal and they upload all the data to it, and I think I was really, really excited for the town with your finance team. I think they're knowledgeable. On top of it, they provided us everything we need. You saw 400 work papers were looked at. It's not a small process, so that was good. This is really, I think, the most critical thing for the boards that I'm on. Sometimes, we'll do an audit and we pull stuff up and we start analyzing it. We make an adjustment to fix this. We make another adjustment to fix that. They're called journal entries. And when you're done, the numbers are correct. The opinion is clean, meaning the financial statements are materially correct, but you realize they're drastically different than where you started the year. And what that means is the information council wouldn't really be accurate until we posted all those audit entries. That's not the case for the town of Basalt. We did not have material adjustments, and I think that's really key. That's where you want your clients to be. Unfortunately, that's not where they all are, but the good news is that is where Basalt is at. No disagreements with management. The only thing that we bring to your attention is there is a new accounting standard coming up, and just so I guess Doug and his team know that we're aware of it, we're on top of it, but technology is becoming such a big part of each government that you now have to basically capitalize software rights. So even if you're purchasing a subscription to a software company, you capitalize that and depreciate it over a non-capital or over a non-cancelable portion of any user agreement. So we'll implement that next year. I don't think it has a huge deal for Basalt because you guys use pretty standard CAN software. Where it's a bigger deal is, we have some clients that have Oracle and PeopleSoft where they're modifying it, but for Basalt, hopefully that'll be pretty easy and pretty straightforward. So that's what I have for you today. And so normally there's a a motion to accept, and then we pull the draft off and start filing it with everyone that needs it.
Great. Brian, any comments? Do you want to say anything?
You know, I think I would just say thanks to Doug and Jenny, because it was a big lift. And of course, last year, as you recall, Jenny was on her own for a little while. So getting this budget put together, making sure the wheels were staying on was an enormous lift for her. So just thanks a lot to staff for all that hard work.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Excellent.
Thank you guys
Yeah,
for being
congratulations,
transparent.
too.
Beautiful.
Thanks for providing continuity.
Mayor, I move that town council accept the 2022 audit.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Let's do a roll call.
Okay, let's do that. Let's begin with Dieter Schindler,
Yes.
David Knight,
Yes.
Angela Anderson,
Yes.
Glenn Drummond,
Yes.
Elise Hoddle,
Yes.
Ryan Slack,
Yes.
and Mayor King.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Yay.
Great work, team.
Thank you, guys. Excellent work.
We've come a far way from when I first started.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Remember.
It's so-